Every day in the UK, more than 200 people are involved in incidents that result in serious brain injury. Whether because of a road traffic accident, medical error, or violent crime on our streets, the effect can be devastating. Illnesses too, from strokes to genetic disorders, can leave patients paralysed and unable to communicate. Rapid and expert treatment is vital if the risk of brain damage is to be minimised. The quality of emergency care provided by the National Health Service is second to none. In fact, medical practices, drugs and equipment have improved to such an extent that our chances of surviving a life-threatening incident have never been better. But survival is one thing. Learning new life skills is something else.
We have a wonderful system. Anybody who's acutely ill is looked after by the health service, but it's the follow-up services that are lacking.
Here in this picturesque corner of the West Midlands, in the shadow of the Malvern Hills, a group of therapists have created a centre of excellence which is dedicated to improving the quality of life of adults and children whose brain injury has left them with severe communication and swallowing difficulties. Founded in 1992, ARCOS is a voluntary organisation, a small charity with enormous potential for changing lives.
The essence of the kind of work that we do, the kind of therapy that we provide at ARCOS, is that it's an integration of physiotherapy, speech therapy and occupational therapy. We are trying to help the patient by integrating those therapies rather than leaving it to the patient to do it for themselves. We are trying to give people the experience of movement that is as normal as possible. We're also trying to make it as pleasurable, as enjoyable as possible, because that's life.
We hear with children and adults that there's not much chance of making a difference to this person. So probably it's a better use of resources not to try. And I think that's profoundly wrong, because you cannot tell with children or adults until you've had a really serious try at improving their communication, whether they are going to be able to be helped or not.
Having a neurological damage is a lifetime thing. It's not something you can do in 6 weeks. And you should never say never. That's what I'd say.
So we've got the sheep sign.
Yes.
Okay.
What are these?
The fact that there's occupational therapists, speech and language therapists, physiotherapists available here means the child is treated in a holistic way, which I think is the best you can get.
We are happier to work with patients who have very severe long-term disability that perhaps other bodies feel that they can no longer give support to. There's also a lot of carer-based education and support that goes on too, which is perhaps not always, not that it's not available in other places, but we have more time to give it here really, I think. And also, it's also very specialised. The therapists who work at ARCOS have specialised in neurology. And it just gives perhaps a fuller treatment, not necessarily always a better treatment, but certainly a fuller treatment, and one that we can continue perhaps for longer than other bodies can. And off you go, Chris. Left knee up. Come across to Caroline a bit more. Bring her closer to you.
When Chris had a stroke, she was at the age of 50. She was diagnosed as having had a stroke after 72 hours in the National Health Hospital in Worcester. She then was referred to a rehabilitation unit, which she was there for 7 months, 5-day regime. And after that, she was home. At that point, external therapists from the NHS were then earmarked for her. But that was very limited indeed. And it was at that point that we realised that we weren't making progress. Sometimes we felt we were going backwards.
Buster. Well done for getting Buster. Buster will miss me. Chris wanted to read, And in fact, it's turned out that not only has it helped her confidence a lot to find that she still has an ability to learn or relearn a phonic approach, I was also using it as an opportunity to see more of how she could manage to understand the reading. It's clear, for instance, that she reads with understanding when she looks at a passage of text, providing it's not too long and the words aren't too complex, then she's reading with understanding.
School.
Well done for managing that. It is the children, but you're quite right to go back, because it doesn't actually say children. They've used this word
Kids.
One of the things that people with strokes find very hard is the lack of material for reading. We often have patients saying, well, they can now read tabloids, but maybe they read broadsheets before. Reading is an everyday activity, and so it's relevant, I think, at some point to include reading in therapy.
It wasn't until after her stroke that Chris Hare took up painting. Although previously right-handed, she taught herself to use her good left hand and now paints greetings cards to help raise money for Arcos.
She's come along leaps and bounds simply because she's getting attention with experts who see the whole thing and want to develop her as a whole person with confidence, like communicating with people. She's a driver now, drives her own car, etc., etc.
Because of her hemiplegia, it's difficult for her to manoeuvre herself. It was a great bonus when she was able to drive again in an adapted car, getting back into life in that way with the independence that driving a car allows. Marvellous.
It could happen anywhere. One moment Jonathan Gurney was a young tax consultant with a bright future. The next, he was the victim of a vicious mugging, leaving him severely brain damaged.
It's a tribute to the excellence of acute medicine that he survived. He has difficulties in walking, and his voice has clearly been affected.
Just take yourself over there.
Could you say "ah"? But this time I want you to start off very softly, move up to a normal speech volume, and then drop down softly again. So it'll be "ah" like that. When you're ready.
The laryngograph is a tool. It gives information to the clinician about what's happening at the larynx level, and indeed what the voice itself is like when not only the larynx has been involved, but a lot of other things as well, articulation primarily. And it allows us to infer what is going on at respiratory level.
So I don't want you to do anything at the moment, Jonathan. Just stay where you are and just let me do it.
And his respiration is an area that's being addressed not only in speech therapy, but also in physiotherapy.
One of Jonathan's problems is that he has tightness around his shoulder blades, particularly on the left. My fingers and thumb under there. Obviously, muscles have often more than one function. And certainly muscles around the arm region are involved in giving movement to the arm, stability of the arm against the chest, and some of them are also involved in breathing. So if those are overactive and tight, it may well actually impede inspiration and therefore, again, voice production.
Mark Crowther is a trustee of Arcos, and he also helps in the office and as a volunteer driver. 16 years ago, he was involved in a road traffic accident that's left him with some paralysis and impaired speech. We asked him how strangers reacted when they met him. Were they embarrassed? Did they think him simple?
I searched both. There's an element of embarrassment and obviously stupidity comes into it, and people talk down to me, which is fairly hard, but they see as if I'm not all there, which obviously I might not be, but it's not for them to judge.
This sentiment is shared by many others who have difficulty communicating. Pip Page has no speech at all and finds this and eating in public give a false impression to those she meets.
The thing that gets me most is how it seems to me that people doubt my basic intelligence. I am brain damaged, but my thinking ability is not damaged. I'm just like anyone else, only I can't speak. With eating and drinking, I can't control my mouth or jaw. This means I can't eat with my mouth closed, and I can't drink without dribbling a bit. When others see me, it seems they make assumptions, thinking I must be deaf and dumb, or mentally retarded.
Pip is very well aware of all the taboos we have about what we look like while we're eating. Forget how you hold your knife and fork. Pip has problems in getting the food to the back of her mouth so that she can swallow it. And she has to tip her head, use her fingers to get food to the back of her mouth. This is a young woman who, before her accident, was considering a career perhaps on the stage, certainly in the arts world. We have a marvellous videotape of her taking the lead in Joseph and the Technicolor Dreamcoat, singing, dancing, tremendously extrovert, very popular. A lot of that has gone by the board.
While studying for her A-levels, Pip had borrowed her stepfather's car.
I was going fast. I'd been told never brake on a bend. Something must have gone wrong, and I must have done just that, judging from the skid marks on the road.
We were first put in contact with Pip when we were asked by her health authority to treat her. Now, 5 years down the line, Pip is a colleague. She works part-time with Arcos and indeed is building up an email service for other people with communication problems. She chose the name for our forum and it's called Pipsqueak, and it literally describes the voice that she's able to produce.
For everyday conversation, Pip has to use an alternative system to speech, this light writer. In addition to providing direct therapy for clients, Arcos also designs and produces innovative therapeutic equipment. The most ambitious project to date has been the Sapphire wheelchair. Pauline Batty, who has cerebral palsy, became the Sapphire test pilot, and her comments helped shape the design.
I can honestly say that she's never had any pressure sores or anything like that in this chair. She can actually move herself around a little bit as well, and she is able to actually get her hips back as well when she knows they're out of alignment. Pauline wasn't sitting very well in some of her chairs that she was issued with, whereas the Sapphire, she's doing a lot more herself in it. She can actually focus on people, getting a lot more eye contact. So people actually see her, whereas the other chairs that she's had in the past, she tended to drop her head and it didn't look as though she was responding very well to anybody. So that really has changed dramatically. And if we go into shops, you know, people can actually see her and they're approaching her a lot more, much more than they used to.
Imaginatively designed equipment can make a huge difference to people who are otherwise imprisoned by their bodies. But Arcos is also active in another area, one that could change the lives of thousands of disabled adults and children. Training.
And maybe taking your finger around the gum.
This course for local therapists, teachers and carers is being held in a school for children who have learning difficulties ranging from profound and multiple to severe and moderate.
Our mission statement is empowering children to learn. That doesn't just mean education in its narrowest sense. It's learning in life and empowering in life and quality of life. And that is every aspect of life. It's the whole child. And feeding and swallowing comes into all of that because it's one of life's basic requirements.
The smell is right at the front of your mouth and not feeling it either.
First part of the course has been concerned particularly with looking at the problems, and as several members of the course group said, they'd actually come to rather accept that this is how a particular child managed or didn't manage. And it was exciting, really, I think, for them to find that sometimes with relatively small changes in the posture, in preparing for a meal, a child was able to manage better. So that she's really more involved rather than being just a passive moppy. There's a range of skills here in the school. All do work together, and that's not always easy. And feeding, eating and drinking really is no one's particular territory.
The approach ARCOS uses is called facial oral tract therapy, or FOTT. It aims to enable people who have eating and drinking difficulties to experience meal times that are as enjoyable and safe as possible.
Getting the principles understood is really the chief aim, I guess. Everybody wants to learn techniques, everybody wants to know the tips and tricks. But in fact, unless you understand the principle, you're going to be very limited. You'll just have a vocabulary of things to do without necessarily understanding why you do them. And then, of course, you won't have the range to develop. And then give them a break. And, of course, you may do it again.
You tend to just accept the way they eat and what they do as part and parcel of their condition without looking carefully and actually realising that you can do anything about improving it. And this course has actually helped me to realise that actually by looking at the way they eat in an organised and careful way, which is, I say, something that I've got from the course, then you can actually improve what they do.
I think feeding, eating as a pleasurable activity as well as a health issue is a basic human right, a need, and I think it's shown me how we can all input into that and make a real difference.
Making a difference. Helping people to live fuller, richer lives through a visionary approach to their speech and swallowing problems. This can mean developing and loaning innovative equipment, providing holistic multidisciplinary therapy with support for families, and enthusing and enabling professional staff to increase their effectiveness through training in schools, hospitals and clinics. Behind everything ARCOS does is one fundamental principle: never say never.